whilst at its core, the Race for Stanton / Second Life event in Star Citizen is all about moving boxes, players have found some creative ways of sourcing those boxes. One such way is by quickly chaining the rescue large cargo missions, but instead of formally completing them one at a time, grabbing the cargo and moving on to hand all the cargo in at once. I'm Forrester, and this gameplay video shows using the Idris to chain together such missions. Much of the footage has been sped up since this was close to being a 2-hour session, but shows grabbing cargo from multiple sources before handing them in. So, let's get started. And of course we start by spawning in the ship and then heading down to the hangar to pick it up. In this case I'm using the Idris P as the cargo ferry ship, although there are some other choices, such as the Polaris, which proved popular. This is not necessarily the absolute fastest way of doing this. I've seen lots of players using the Razor, for example, to fly in and then just fly out the cargo ship rather than moving it to a single place. However, this is a very reliable and fairly easygoing way to do it. It's even faster if you've got a second person down below. The first thing we're doing is heading across to the medical bay and just setting a respawn point just in case things go wrong, which is the advantage of using a larger ship like an Idris or a Polaris, is that if things do go wrong, you can quickly get back to where you were. Then heading up front, getting the contracts, and then taking off. In this case, the contract for rescue large cargo is not currently available, so I've grabbed a large ship under attack and will fly to that instead. And enjoy a nice view of the Idris taking off from that hangar. I do think this is a very attractive ship. So back into some sped up footage as the Idris slowly climbs out of that microtech atmosphere before heading to this large ship under attack. The Idris is very capable. It's really not designed to be used as a solo ship. However, because it's got the point defense cannons and very impressive shield generators, currently, in this PvE type scenario, it's definitely possible just to park it up and let the point defense turrets engage the smaller targets whilst you do whatever it is you need to do in relative safety. Of course, things get very different when you're talking about a PvP scenario, and actually I hope that in the future this will become less and less viable as things like engineering and more realistic damage models come online to deal with, but for now it works. So with this large cargo ship under attack, going to hop into one of the turrets on board the Idris and try and just take out some of the smaller fighters that are engaging the cargo ship. I find it's 50-50 whether this works for me or not. That might say something about my gunnery skills rather than anything else, but again, this is probably not the best choice for quickly dealing with these threats, but the advantage of the Idris is it has got that large cargo bay, so in the event that I fail to rescue this ship that's under attack and it gets destroyed, I can still grab the cargo off of it and put it on board the Idris to return later. But until then, try and engage some of these targets with this little turret on the side of the bridge. Do what I can, I suppose. And that caterpillar has wedged itself into the ship. So the contract has failed, the large ship has been destroyed. I'm sorry, Microtech, but the cargo is retrievable. So I'm going to head down, open the front door of the ship, and see if it is still in view. It's not, so I'm going to head back up to the bridge and just get that cargo ship into view. This is the downside of running this solo, and probably the Polaris is better than the Idris for this in terms of a choice of what to use, but in the event that you do fail to protect the cargo ship, or you don't align yourself quite correctly for the cargo boxes, or your ship or their ship gets nudged, unfortunately it is a very long walk back up to that Idris bridge from the front of the ship, and there's no two ways about it. It is a long walk. Even at times 4 speed, you can see it takes a little bit of time to be able to walk all the way back down, and that's assuming you go the right way, which I don't always. So if you've got another person on board that is able to guide you to the right place and or be able to start grabbing cargo, it does dramatically speed things up. Albeit you're potentially sharing the loot with another person, that can still be worthwhile. And here we have grabbing these crates from the Hercules, and I'm probably only going to grab the larger crates from here. Ultimately, whilst the contract does let you grab kind of some of the smaller crates, it seems to be much faster to focus on just the larger ones. And I've seen people who, particularly taking the rescue contracts, literally just do the largest of crates and ignore everything else. For me, I'm happy to take these 4 SCU crates, but as soon as you start dealing with 2s or 1s, it just gets a little bit too much for me. As is getting on board the Idris again through that opening hangar door at the front, it can be a little bit awkward. For many owners of Idris, we keep an ATLS on board, which makes for very easy loading and unloading and moving of cargo. In this case, I'm able to grab these cargo crates that are all the way at the front of the hangar deck and move them to the back. With a little bit of video magic, we've now got some cargo contracts for these large cargo rescue, and just flown straight to it, parked up the Idris, and again loading up these crates. In this case, this Caterpillar is equipped with some slightly larger crates, which is fantastic. That's the advantage of these contracts versus the Protect a Ship Under Attack contracts, is you do get these larger crates, and ultimately you can choose to either hop into the ship and fly the cargo away. I think you're supposed to kill all of the attacking craft first, but many people don't. Or you could grab the crates straight from the ship and then just take the crates back. And that's the preferred strategy here with the Idris, is grab the crates, just the larger ones, put them onto the Idris, and then grab the next set of contracts to bring some more aboard. So quick check that there's no more crates there. Organize these ones into the back of the Idris so that we're nice and neat for unloading. And then it'll be a simple case of grabbing the next contract. And here we have it, the beautiful Idris at the next contract. You can see those point defense cannons engaging some of the smaller ships that are floating around trying to interfere with this rescue. But frankly, the shields on board in this PvE type scenario are more than capable of just keeping the ship safe and secure whilst you do whatever needs to be done. And that's why I quite like this ship as my choice for how to complete these contracts. Once again, heading down to the front, moving the crates all the way on board, and it's as simple as that. Now, as I mentioned, some people just focus on those larger crates, particularly on these Hercules. You get these great big crates. I'm happy to take the 4 SCU crates as well. Some people don't. That's fine, I guess. It's probably optimal. I'm not trying to show the optimal way of doing this. There are plenty of videos out there that show this much better, but I'm just showing that actually, for the solo person, if you have access to a ship like an Idris or a Polaris, it is still feasible to make some progress doing it this way. I actually find that it's a little bit faster doing it this way than using the raft just to do the large cargo contracts, but it's much less frustrating in that you're not beholden to the freight elevators and you're less likely to come across other players doing this, and other players may help or hinder you depending on their temperament, I guess. So I guess this is another way to do it. I still do a lot of the Argo raft freight hauling. It's still a good way to do it, but it's nice having options of different ways to complete these contracts, I guess. So we head out and grab another Hercules worth of gear. One other advantage of doing this kind of way of completing these contracts is, of course, that because you're mostly interested in the loot and not necessarily completing a mission per se, it doesn't really matter if you're grabbing the missions for your chosen corporation. So for example, here I'm around Microtech and I'm doing Microtech missions, and I'm actually going to hand them in for Microtech anyway, but I could take these crates and go and hand them in for Crusader, or I could hand them in for ArtCorp, and the crates are crates, so it doesn't matter that you're completing the farm, as it were, around Microtech, which I guess is one of the advantages of doing it this way. I suppose that's also true for if you're hauling with the raft, but it just means you've got more trips of doing that before you get back. And of course, as often happens, I've got a crate stuck where I don't want it to be stuck. Sometimes cargo hauling just doesn't like me. And then once again, organising some crates. Some of it can go on the grid on the sides of the Idris hangar, and the rest of it can just go in the centre, nice and neat. And here we have the next set of cargo retrieval, bringing some more cargo aboard from yet another large cargo rescue. And unfortunately, as sometimes happens in the current patch, the game crashed. So I've had to respawn back in exactly the same place to move some crates. Again, it's a little bit frustrating when that happens, but I think a fix is supposed to be on the horizon. It's supposed to be something to do with an audio bug or something like that. I get a lot of game crashes at the moment, which is a little bit annoying. But at least doing this kind of activity, it's not really game breaking because the Idris is nearby, the Idris is going to survive, and I also have a respawn point set on the Idris in case things do go a little bit too wrong. And credit to Star Citizen, the recovery from those crashes is much better than it used to be. You can usually enter in the same place that you were, doing the same kind of thing with very little impact. Once again, organising some crates at the rear of the Idris hangar bay, ready for quicker unloading at the other end. And the other advantage of ships like the Idris and the Polaris for doing this is they're absolutely massive. So although the cargo grid on the Idris P is only about 1300 SCUs of actual gridded cargo, the hangar bay has more than enough space on it for thousands of SCUs. So you've really got plenty of space to be able to work with. Unfortunately, one of the attacking ships has nudged this Hercules a little bit, so getting the cargo out of it is a little bit like that scene in Interstellar where they're all spinning around, but thankfully I can just bring it closer, stabilise it, and then grab it onto the Idris. Not too bad to do. As always, the hardest part is getting back aboard the Idris through this front hangar bay. I grab the crates, just bring them aboard, nice and neat. So I've been steadily plugging away at these resource drive contracts for this race for Stanton. Microtech is my chosen corporation. I've chosen to try and get that all the way to tier 5, even though I'm not expecting Microtech to win. I think it's been a foregone conclusion for some time that Hearst Dynamics will stay in the lead. I thought I'd get Microtech because I live on Microtech, and ultimately the skins look cool. I'll try and get that to tier 5 and then do what I can on Crusader as my second choice of corporation. But it depends on how long the event runs for. If it runs into 4.3, I may well get Crusader done as well. But ultimately, it's one of those where I'm not going to spend days and days trying to get to tier 5 on everything. I sadly just don't have the time for that anymore. So with a little editing magic, now back in the extra large hangar at New Babbage on Microtech. The Idris landed, the door open, and it's a simple case of unloading all of these crates. in total, from chaining together all of those contracts, which was a few of the rescue contracts, plus the large cargo ship under attack, where I grabbed that cargo from the front, and just leaving the smaller crates, so only grabbing the 4 SCU or larger crates, it's a total of 588 SCU in about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 of actual game time. Some of that was recovering from the crash earlier on as well, which wasn't ideal. And the aim of this wasn't to do it the fastest. I appreciate that players flying in with a razor, retrieving the cargo ship and getting out can string together 5-6 of those missions in an hour potentially. For me, this was not so much about doing that. It was more about having a little bit of chill time to move some crates and fly out the Idris, which is always fun to fly. So just shy of 600 SCU's worth of progress on this Microtech completion, and of course you get the nice view of having lots and lots of boxes sat in your hangar ready and waiting. For somebody who enjoys the cargo hauling gameplay regularly when it's not an event, actually seeing a load of crates is kind of weirdly satisfying, so it's quite a nice feeling to see all those crates in there from the work that you've done in the play session as well. Quick check of the hangar and make sure that there's nothing left in there that doesn't need to be left in there. And then it's a case of moving all of these crates onto the grid. At the time of recording, it's still where there's a requirement to have them at a single level on the cargo grid, i.e. you can't stack boxes on top of each other. As I understand, that may now have been fixed, but at time of recording that was not fixed, and so I'm doing a single stack here. But because I've just been grabbing some of the largest of boxes, it's not really a problem. There's plenty of room aboard to be able to load all of these on a single stack and then just do a short, smaller trip down if needs be for whatever's left over. Also, regular viewers of the channel will know this is one of the rare occasions where I'm using the larger tractor beam. I'm actually a fan of the small multi-tool as my preferred little tractor beam to use, so it makes a bit of a difference using this larger one and having that extra power. I don't know, I like to think it's like an Obi-Wan Kenobi type thing of the smaller one is somehow more civilized, perhaps. Clearly that's not the case, but I guess we all have our little preferences, but this larger one is working just fine for the job at hand, which is loading these crates. I've started with the large ones and then completing the smaller ones, just makes it a little bit easier for handing, and as I say, keeping that to a single layer to begin with. So send these ones down, get the credit, and using the ongoing material acquisition contract to get the credit rather than all of those rescue contracts, which were the ones originally grabbed. And the eagle-eyed might notice that handing these in got me to tier 4 of Microtech, so almost there, not too far left to go. The end is in sight perhaps, and that's why I'm hoping I might get a little progress on Crusader as well before the event finishes. And it's a case of bringing these last of these 4 SU crates aboard as well, which will just top up that last little bit. And of course the payout isn't terrible either. So it perhaps wasn't the most efficient 2 hours, but certainly wasn't terrible, got some good progress made, and ultimately it was fun to do something a little bit different. When you've got a grind like this, breaking it up into different chunks to make it a little bit more palatable can be a good way of getting progress. And ultimately that's what I want. I'd like to get the full set of tier 5 rewards for Microtech, so breaking up the grind has been enjoyable for me. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to let me know I should make more gameplay videos like this, and if you're not yet subscribed, given that you got this far, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube will know to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.